Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive with me,
Look at
and
me.
it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So we are going to be looking at power dynamics and the art of persuasion.
Very cool.
We have a lot of different source material today from excerpts from the 48 Laws of Power biographies of figures like Alexander the Great and Louis the 14th. And we even have some um, historical anecdotes.
Yeah, we've got a really cool mix of stuff.
Yeah, so I guess our mission today is to help you, the listener, understand some of these maybe less obvious levers of power and influence.
Yeah, that's right.
And then hopefully, we can help equip, whether it's a political dynasty or a family business or even just a strong parental figure.
Right. And the sources had some really striking examples of this, like Alexander the Great,
Oh, yeah.
who was constantly compared to his father, Philip of Macedon,
Right.
who was this brilliant military leader.
Yeah.
And Alexander felt this immense pressure to not only follow in his father's footsteps, but to actually surpass him.
Yeah, it's almost as if Alexander felt he had to psychologically break from his father's mold in order to establish his own legacy.
Right. And
And one of the best examples of that, I think, is the story of the Gordian knot.
oh, yes.
This knot that was tied to an ancient chariot.
Yeah.
And whoever could untie it was said to rule all of Asia.
Oh, I remember this.
And so rather than, meticulously trying to untie it like everyone else, Alexander just sliced it in half with his sword.
What a power move.
Right. What a power move.
But what's that tell us, though?
Well, I think it was a very symbolic act, right? Demonstrating that Alexander wouldn't be bound by tradition or expectations.
He was forging his own path, and we see a similar theme with Louis XIV, the Sun King.
Yes, Louis XIV, he was determined to create his own distinct identity,
Yeah,
separate from his predecessors.
absolutely.
Um, and instead of using the Louvre, the traditional royal residence, he built the extravagant Palace of Versailles.
Exactly. Like, why?
Well, if we look at it in context, I think it wasn't just about a change of address.
Right.
Versailles was a statement. It was a complete rejection of the past and a bold declaration of a new era under Louis's rule.
So both Alexander and Louis XIV understood that establishing a powerful identity sometimes means making a clean break from tradition.
Yeah.
They created their own symbols and rituals to distinguish themselves.
Precisely. And that raises an interesting question for you, the listener.
Okay.
Are you consciously shaping your own style and symbols, or are you unintentionally echoing those who came before you?
You know, it's so easy to just fall into that trap without realizing it,
Totally.
especially when you're surrounded by, successful models.
But this idea of creating a new order leads us to another concept that I found really fascinating, the art of seduction and persuasion.
Right.
I mean, where Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power offers some fascinating, lens through which to explore this concept.
Okay.
And perhaps the most captivating is Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker.
Oh, a good con artist story.
I do too.
And the story of Asbury Harpending and the diamond mine hoax is fantastic.
Yeah, one of the best.
I mean, this guy concocted an elaborate scheme to sell a fake diamond mine.
Yeah, and managed to fool Tiffany and Company.
It's amazing.
What I find brilliant about it is how they played on people's greed and their desire to feel smarter than everyone else.
Totally. They planted real diamonds in the mine.
They did. It's amazing they used savings from their gold mining days to buy diamonds.
To buy the diamonds
Yeah.
and make it seem legit.
That's right. They had to have this kind of air of legitimacy.
Right.
And it worked. And it's funny because remember what Baron Rothschild said?
Yeah. When Harpending told him about the mine, he said, "America is a very large country. It has furnished the world with many surprises already. Perhaps it has others in store."
He perfectly captured the mindset that they were exploiting.
Totally.
It's amazing how they made their targets feel like they were in on a secret.
Yeah.
They were getting one over on the so-called experts.
Right. And this law isn't just about financial scams, though.
Okay.
The sources also illustrate this with the example of Japan's strategic surrender to the West in the 19th century.
Right.
They outwardly adopted Western customs and technologies,
Right.
but they were learning and adapting the whole time,
Right.
and ultimately used that knowledge to rise as a global power.
So sometimes the path to power involves appearing less powerful, almost like lulling your opponents into a false sense of security.
Yeah, that's a powerful insight. And it might be worth considering in your own life.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever found that appearing less threatening gave you an advantage in certain situations?
Definitely something to think about, especially in competitive environments.
For sure.
But Greene doesn't stop there. He also delves into the idea of playing the perfect courtier in Law 24.
Right.
So this law is about mastering the subtle art of influence and navigating the complex social dynamics of a court, or really any hierarchical structure.
Exactly.
And there were some great examples of courtiers who used these techniques to gain favor, like Marie Mancini,
Oh, yeah.
one of Louis XIV's early love interests.
Right.
Now, she wasn't considered traditionally beautiful,
Right.
but she had this remarkable ability to captivate the king.
She did, and she was a master of mirroring.
Mirroring how so?
She would subtly reflect Louis's own opinions and interests back to him, making him feel deeply understood and admired.
It's almost like she created this mirror image of his ideal self.
Exactly. And it can be incredibly flattering.
Right.
And this technique of mirroring someone's behavior and values isn't limited to romantic relationships.
Okay.
It can be remarkably effective in building rapport in any social situation.
Oh, wow. That's like a game changer.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about how I can use this in my next meeting.
Right.
But speaking of bold moves, Law 28, interaction with boldness,
Right.
really stood out to me.
Oh, yeah.
It's about projecting confidence and decisiveness, even when you might be feeling uncertain.
Exactly.
And I thought the example of Harry Houdini was perfect for this.
Yeah, one of the best.
I mean, he was famous for his daring escapes.
Yeah.
But what people often overlooked was the incredible amount of preparation and practice that went into those escapes.
He made it look effortless.
He did.
But it was anything but.
Right.
He understood the power of creating an illusion of ease and mastery.
That's a good point, and that actually ties into another crucial element of power controlling the narrative.
Oh, yeah.
And the anecdote about Dr. Weislater and his moon healing spectacle is wild.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, this guy,
What a character.
he wasn't actually a doctor,
Nope.
but he convinced people that he could heal them using moonlight.
What a story.
He had this whole setup with a staircase leading to a platform bathed in moonlight.
I know, it's pure theatrics.
Pure theatrics, but people bought into it completely.
They did, and it just shows that sometimes appealing to emotion is far more effective than appealing to logic.
For sure.
He kept things simple, he tapped into people's desire for healing,
Right.
and he never revealed the man behind the curtain.
It seems there's a lot to be said for maintaining an air of mystery and not revealing all your methods or sources.
Absolutely, it keeps people guessing.
Right.
And it amplifies your power because they can't use that knowledge against you.
Which brings us to the dangers of envy and the importance of timing.
Right.
You know, flaunting success can really backfire spectacularly.
It can.
And the story of Joe Orton and Kenneth Halliwell, the writing duo from the 50s and 60s, is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both successful initially,
Yeah.
but as Orton's fame grew, Halliwell became increasingly resentful.
He felt overshadowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a reminder that envy can fester even in very close partnerships and ultimately poison the relationship.
And it kind of underscores the idea that true mastery often lies in making your achievements seem effortless.
Yeah.
You know, don't draw unnecessary attention to your superiority.
Don't rub it in.
Right. Which I guess segues perfectly into the topic of timing.
Timing is everything they say.
And the story of Cyrus and Queen Tamiris illustrates how victory can quickly turn into defeat if you're not careful.
Yeah.
I mean, Cyrus, this brilliant Persian king, he was on a roll with his strategic conquest,
Right.
but then he encounters Queen Tamiris and her fierce Mesejete warriors.
Yeah, and Cyrus, blinded by his past victories, was led to a crushing defeat.
Oh, this is the one where he underestimates her and falls for her trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it ultimately results in the capture and death of his son.
Right.
It's a harsh reminder that power is fleeting.
Yeah.
And even the most successful leaders need to adapt and evolve their strategies to stay ahead.
Right.
Which raises a question for you. Are you clinging to outdated tactics or approaches?
Okay.
Are your actions becoming predictable?
That's a really good question to consider. Adaptability and keeping your opponents guessing seem crucial for maintaining power over the long haul.
Absolutely. And not just in the context of, grand conquests,
Right.
but also in navigating the twists and turns of our own lives. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it in
Yeah.
your own,
Okay.
adapting and evolving. That's key. But let's shift gears for a moment and delve into another fascinating concept that comes up in the sources.
Okay.
And that's understanding and manipulating perception.
Okay.
It's almost like a hidden layer of power operating beneath the surface.
But it's like a secret language of power?
Yeah, exactly.
This idea pops up everywhere, from the use of symbolism to the creation of like cult-like followings.
Right, and leaders throughout history have been masters of this.
Right.
They've used symbols and rituals to reinforce their authority, often in very subtle ways.
Okay.
Think back to Louis XIV and his rejection of the Louvre in favor of Versailles. He wasn't just building a palace, he was crafting an entire world designed to project his power.
It was like a giant stage set for his reign,
Exactly.
complete with like elaborate ceremonies and rituals. I mean, it all just screamed, "I am the Sun King."
I am the Sun King, that's right.
Right.
And it's fascinating how even seemingly minor details played a role. Louis XIV refused to wear a crown or carry a scepter.
Why?
He wanted to project a new type of authority, one that transcended the traditional symbols of monarchy.
So it's almost like he was saying, my presence alone commands authority.
Right.
I don't need those old props.
I don't need the trappings.
Yeah, that level of confidence is incredibly compelling.
It is.
Do you think that there are ways that we can apply this principle in our own lives? Like, can we use symbolism or even just our personal style to project a certain image?
It's definitely worth considering, but the sources also warn against taking this too far look at Louis XV. Louis XIV's successor, he inherited all the wealth and the power, but he lacked the drive and the charisma to make it his own.
He became trapped in this gilded cage.
Yeah.
Like obsessed with maintaining this image of power, and ultimately lost the substance.
Yeah, it's a classic example of how clinging too rigidly to a particular image can backfire.
You have to evolve to stay relevant.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this brings us to another intriguing aspect of manipulating perception, and that is the creation of a cult-like following.
Okay.
The source material had some thought-provoking insights on this, and one particularly memorable example, I think, is Dr. Franz Anton Mesmer, an 18th century physician famous for his theory of animal magnetism.
Oh, yes, Dr. Mesmer. He was like a rock star of his time.
He had these wild group sessions where people would fall into trances, all because he claimed to be able to heal them using magnetic forces.
Crazy.
He might have been debunked scientifically, but he was a master showman. He understood the power of spectacle tapping into people's desires and fears.
Do you remember those tubs filled with iron filings
Yeah.
that he claimed were charged with magnetic energy?
Yeah, people would gather around these tubs holding hands, waiting for the healing power to flow through them.
It's crazy, but also fascinating.
It's like a giant human circuit.
Right.
And Mesmer was the conductor.
Yeah.
But his techniques offer some interesting insights, I think, into the psychology of persuasion.
I mean, he created a shared experience,
Right.
this sense of community and belonging.
Yeah.
He also knew how to appeal to people's emotions, especially in a group setting.
Totally.
It makes me think of that saying, if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it.
Right. It's not necessarily about lying. It's about creating a compelling narrative,
Right.
a story that resonates with people's deep-seated desires and anxieties.
Okay, so speaking of desires, the sources also explore the role of seduction in power dynamics.
Yeah.
And not just in a romantic sense, but like a more generalized form of charm and persuasion.
Yeah. The example of Ninon de Lenclos, the famous courtesan,
Yes.
is particularly intriguing. She was known for her wit and her intelligence and her ability to captivate men from all walks of life.
I remember reading about her. She had this unique system for categorizing her lovers, payers and martyrs.
Payers and martyrs.
The payers were the wealthy men who provided financial support.
Right.
And then the martyrs were the ones who were so enamored with her that they'd sacrifice anything just to be near her.
It's amazing.
It's pretty impressive.
She created a hierarchy of desire.
Right.
A game that men were eager to play.
Right.
And she didn't force anyone into a category.
Okay.
They could choose their role.
Right.
Which gave them a sense of agency, even if it was an illusion.
That's brilliant.
It's a brilliant strategy.
So by giving people a sense of choice, they feel less manipulated.
Right.
Even when you're subtly influencing their behavior.
Exactly. Persuasion is about understanding people's motivations and desires.
Right.
And then offering them a way to fulfill those desires.
Okay.
Even if it's ultimately on your terms.
I mean, this applies to so many areas of life.
Oh, yeah.
Business negotiations, relationships, even just getting your point across in a meeting.
Absolutely. But the sources also caution against over-reliance on charm and seduction as your primary power source.
Okay.
Because those qualities can fade with time, and they're easily mimicked or countered.
It's like building a foundation on sand.
Yeah,
It might look impressive at first, but it won't last.
that's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So, what have we learned from exploring all of these different sources? What are some key takeaways about power dynamics?
Well, one thing that stands out to me is just the importance of understanding the psychology of power.
Right.
Those hidden levers that influence behavior.
And not just understanding other people's psychology, but also your own.
Oh, wait.
Knowing your strengths, weaknesses, and motivations. Right. It's key.
We also see the importance of adaptability.
Uh-huh.
Being able to change your strategies and tactics depending on the situation.
You can't be stuck in your ways.
Right.
And then there's the art of perception.
Right.
You need to know how to project the image that you want others to see
Okay.
while being aware of how your actions are being perceived.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
But I think these sources provide a really timeless perspective on power dynamics,
Yeah,
which is incredibly valuable, I think, for navigating our modern world.
for sure. And it's important to remember that power itself isn't inherently good or bad.
Okay.
It's a tool
Right.
that can be used for constructive or destructive purposes.
So it's a choice we all make.
Right.
How will we wield this power? Will we use it responsibly and ethically?
Exactly. And we also need to be aware of the potential pitfalls,
Right.
the temptations that come with power. It's very easy to get lost in the game.
Yeah, you can get swept up in it.
So staying grounded and true to ourselves is crucial.
So that leads us to, I think, another theme that emerges from these sources, perhaps the most important one of all.
Okay.
And that is the power we have over ourselves.
Yeah.
It really is like the ultimate power play, isn't it?
It is.
Self-mastery.
Yeah, it is.
And honestly, it's something that I struggle with sometimes.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's a lifelong journey.
It is. It's so easy to get caught up in all the external things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's a theme that kind of weaves its way through so many of these stories,
Right.
even if it's not always explicitly stated.
Like when we talk about controlling the narrative,
Yeah.
it's not just about influencing what other people think. It's also about managing the stories that we tell ourselves.
Totally.
Those inner narratives that shape our actions and our beliefs.
The stories we tell ourselves are so powerful.
They are.
Think about Alexander the Great and his constant drive to outshine his father.
Yeah.
Was it really pure ambition, or was he battling some internal narrative of inadequacy,
Right.
a deep-seated need to prove himself? I hadn't
Oh.
thought about it that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like his conquests were as much about conquering his own inner demons
Right.
as they were about, expanding his empire.
Totally. And we see a similar pattern with Louis XIV. Was his obsession with forging a new order truly driven by a desire for progress? Or was it fueled by a need to escape the shadow of his predecessors,
Right.
to establish his own unique identity?
It's fascinating to consider whether true power comes from dominating others
Right.
or from mastering those internal forces that can hold us back.
Right.
All the insecurities and fears that can trip us up.
Yeah, it's a question worth pondering for sure.
It is.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about another crucial element of power that kind of jumps out from these sources.
Okay.
And that is the importance of understanding your audience.
Yes, this came up repeatedly, especially in the context of persuasion.
Yeah, think back to Dr. Weislater and his moon healing spectacle.
Yeah.
He was so successful because he knew exactly what his audience wanted. They craved hope healing and a touch of the extraordinary.
Right. He played to their emotions. He created a spectacle that ignited their imaginations.
Yeah.
And he never tried to over-explain the science, which of course was completely fabricated.
Right, and it's a principle that holds true in any situation where you're trying to influence others.
Okay.
Leading a team, negotiating a deal, even persuading a friend, you need to understand what makes them tick.
Okay.
What are their motivations, their fears, their aspirations?
Like being a detective.
It is.
Piecing together these clues about their psychology,
Yeah.
their values, their vulnerabilities.
And the sources offer some great tips on how to do this.
Okay.
Pay attention to their body language, their choice of words, the topics they emphasize or avoid.
So active listening, reading between the lines.
Yeah.
Picking up on those subtle cues that reveal their true motivations.
Exactly. And once you understand what drives them, then you can tailor your approach.
Okay.
You can offer them something that genuinely aligns with their desires and speaks to both their head and their heart.
All right, because let's face it, logic alone rarely wins people over.
Right.
You need to connect with them emotionally
You do.
and make them feel understood and valued.
You've hit on a key point.
Okay.
And this brings us to another important takeaway. And that is the need to adapt your approach based on the individual that you're dealing with.
Okay.
Because what works for one person might fall completely flat with another.
Right, right. And the sources highlighted this beautifully. Do you remember Athenian general Alcibiades?
Oh, yeah.
He was known for his ability to adapt his personality and charm anyone he met.
He was like a chameleon blending in with his surroundings.
Right, some might call it manipulative,
Sure.
but it also demonstrated his intelligence and his adaptability.
It did.
He knew that one size doesn't fit all when it comes to persuasion.
That's right.
It reminds me that you have to be willing to adjust your style, your tone, even your language, depending on who you're interacting with.
And that takes a degree of self-awareness, the ability to step outside yourself
Right?
and see the world through another person's eyes.
And it also requires letting go of your ego
Mm-hmm.
and being open to different ways of doing things. That's how you create connection.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Ultimately, the most persuasive people are those who can make others feel seen and heard.
That's a good point.
They're the ones who build trust and rapport.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into power dynamics and persuasion,
Yeah.
what is one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think it's important to remember that the most powerful and lasting form of influence comes not from manipulation or control,
Okay.
but from genuine connection.
Right.
Building relationships based on trust, respect, and mutual understanding.
Right.
It's about empowering others rather than seeking to dominate them.
Right.
And using your influence to make a positive impact on the world. That's the kind of power that truly endures.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder these insights and continue your own exploration of knowledge and self-discovery.
That's right.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.